Somatic lower back release. This is a practice to relax and release the muscles of the lower back, creating space, freedom, and ease. Begin in a somatic scan position, lengthening out both legs and the arms. For some that have lower back issues, it may be more appropriate to have the knees bent. Hopefully, over the practice, as you return to somatic scan at the end, you may find that it's a little easier to lengthen the legs long. As you allow the body to release its weight down into the floor, we'll begin to pay particular attention to the lower back and the pelvis. So noticing initially the tilt of the pelvis left and right. Does it feel as though one ASIS pokes up a little higher than the other? Or maybe you can gain a sense that maybe one hip is drawn up towards one shoulder, or indeed reaching down towards the foot. Noticing how happy your legs are to lengthen long and create space through the front of the hip flexors. And what kind of conversation is your lower back having with the floor? Does it feel as though your legs are pulling your back to create a deeper arch? Or can the small of your lower back nestle comfortably into the ground? Take a snapshot of the space and freedom available to you through your body in lying, so that we can return to it at the end of the practice. Carefully now sliding up both knees so the feet come bent. Deciding what happens in the pelvis as you slide the feet a little closer or a little further away. Choosing to adjust the posture for your own needs. And you'll notice this has changed your relationship between your lower back and the floor. Beginning just at the breath. Inhaling, arching the lower back, rolling the tail away, exhale and flattening, curling the tail up a little. What can you feel here? How smoothly can you transition? Can you iron out any jumping, juddering or shaking movements? As this little dance happens between your arch and your flatten. Inhale, the muscles of the front body are lengthened and long. As you exhale, they contract and the muscles of the lower back become a little longer. So as you ride this dance between arch and flatten, could we imagine that the navel sits at 12 o'clock and the tail sits at 6, and you're drawing a straight line between 12 and 6 each time you arch and flatten. How straight is the line that you take between 12 and 6? Are there any deviations that take you one way or another? When you've firmed up this groove between the two numbers in your clock face, we're going to take the journey in the opposite direction. So picturing where your ASISs are, you'll imagine where 9-3 would be on the clock face, and gently rock a little from one side to another as you take the journey from one ASIS A-I-S to the other. Drawing a line across the back, tilting one pelvis as it bobs up and the other bobs down, and then taking it the other way. Travelling from one hip through the sacroiliac joint into the sacrum, and then over to the other sacroiliac into the hip. Containing the movement so you don't come into a great twist, just rock gently from one side to another. And now we have plotted the four corners of your pelvis. Can we travel the perimeter edge of those four corners? So traveling now, as you flatten at 12, can you travel round to 3, all the way down to 6, part way to 9, and then flattening again to come up to 12. Arching and flattening as you go, drawing out this pelvic circle all the way around. Keeping your mind firmly on the journey that the pelvis has to take as it travels around these plotted marks. How smooth is your circle? How many corners or straight lines does your body want to throw in? And can you smooth them out? And once you've found that circular action in the best way that you can today, can you reverse the movement and take it in the opposite direction? So travelling backwards around your clock face. Often you'll find that the other direction is not in your nature and will become more challenging. Remembering to keep the movement light and smooth. And then when you complete the circle that you're on, pausing back to neutral. And then once at neutral, we'll head back to our 12-6, a simplified arch and flatten. Noticing if you have any better sense of direction or any straighter line that you can make between 12 and 6. And then when you're ready, lengthening out your right leg long. And the important part of this movement as we come to a leg lift is that you notice the contact of the small of the lower back to the floor. So with your arch and flatten, your inhale will allow you to arch and your lower back will come away from the floor. But as you exhale and flatten and the small of your lower back comes down, you will gently float the heel of the straight right leg away from the floor. And then slowly, slowly, slowly release it down. Turn the weight off and relax. And then your next inhale will take you into an arch. Only once you've exhaled and the small of the lower back comes towards the floor will you then take the leg into the lift, floating away from the floor. And then slowly, slowly, slowly down. The leg lift can be very small, it doesn't have to be terribly high, keeping it in a nice, contained range of motion. Whichever height you're coming to right now, make sure that on your next one, you lift it a very small amount. One last one, making it as small as you possibly can, connected into the psoas muscle as the lower back comes to the floor. That tiny movement just to hover the heel away from the floor. And then turn it all off. Lengthen out both legs for just a moment. Taking a comparison between your left and your right sides. Noticing the weight, the expansion of either leg. Is there a difference between the feeling of the length of one leg and the other? When you have made all the comparisons that you need to, sliding up the opposite leg down. Bring the feet back to the floor. We'll take the movement over to the other side. So again, the important thing here is to inhale and arch. And only once you have exhaled and flattened the lower back down, will you connect into center. It's as though the leg joins to the navel. You'll float the heel of that foot. And then slowly, slowly lower, relax and release. Turn it all off. Inhale, arch. Exhale, flatten. Make that connection at your 12 o'clock to lift and float the foot up. And slowly lower down. Noticing now, as you travel through these movements, if there is a difference in the amount of energy it's costing you to lift this leg in comparison to the other. And these next couple that you take, trying to lift the leg a little lower. This helps with a deeper connection to the floor. We often learn more in a smaller movement than we do in a larger one. Making one last tiny movement on this leg. Before turning it all off, lengthening both legs out. Taking a pause to compare one leg to the other. How much space do you feel that you have at the front of the pelvis? We'll take a transition now over onto all fours whenever you are ready. So doing anything that you need to do to make you feel that you can make that transition smooth and easy. Lining up the knees underneath the hips and the heels of the hands under the shoulders. Coming to a nice neutral position. The gaze will look down as the back of the head is an extension of the spine. And just as we did in arch and flatten, feel that you can rock and release the lower back. So as you inhale, you'll drop the small of the back down and lift a little in the chin. And then as you exhale, you'll round the back, dropping the head down to look back towards the knees, lengthening the muscles of the lower back. As you arch, lifting the chin, dropping the lower back down, lengthening the muscles of the front body. Noticing as you move through the difference between your left and your right sides and the muscles that run either side of the spine. Can you keep your shoulders soft, your neck soft? And you've completed the one that you are on, drawing the bottom back towards the heels, outstretching the arms in front of you. Aiming to relax the lower back as much as you can. And then turning that transition into a front lying position for a back lift. So taking a moment to lower the body down to the floor. Turn everything off for just a moment. Be particularly aware of releasing in the lower back now that you have come onto your front. And then bringing your left arm alongside your body. Bending the elbow of your right arm and bringing the thumb in line with your nose. Making sure you have plenty of room for your shoulder. We're going to begin first in the shoulder to slide that right shoulder diagonally back towards the opposite hip. Keeping the elbow down, you'll look over that shoulder whenever you're ready. And then release back down to the floor. Slowly looking over that left shoulder, or even the right. Turning it all off each time we come down, releasing, relaxing the shoulder. Coming back in. Noticing how the lower back feels as you lift and release each time, turning everything off each time you come down. And the next time you lift, lifting the opposite leg to the shoulder. So it's your right shoulder, it'll be your left leg, and then slowly, slowly down. Make sure you're turning everything off. Relax the shoulder, the glutes, the lower back, bringing it to its longest point. Slowly, slowly lengthening. Taking one more through. Turning everything off when you come down this time. Sliding the back of the right hand underneath your cheek. This is a slightly deeper movement that begins at the elbow. So beginning the lift from the point of the elbow, spiraling all the way up, lifting the leg, and then de-spiraling to come back to the floor. Remember, this movement could be tiny or as big as you're comfortable to make, listening to the movement in the lower back each time you do it. Turn it all off each time. The release and relax is just as important as the lift and contract. And then as you come down this time, release that hand alongside your body. Turn your head to face the other direction this time. Bring the hand in line with the nose. Develop a groove in moving in the shoulder to begin with, so just sliding the shoulder back diagonally towards the opposite hip. Learning to communicate a sense of release and relax each time you come down. Adding the head in as soon as you're ready. Turning the head to look over that shoulder. And if your body feels okay, transitioning to lifting in the opposite right leg. Keeping everything else nice and relaxed. Turning it all off as you come down. The muscles of the back become longer and easier each time you relax to the floor. When you come down the next time, you'll slide the left hand underneath the cheek. Begin this movement from the elbow as you spiral up from foot to elbow, keeping the opposite arm nice and relaxed, slowly lowering down, de-spiraling out. This is a good place to notice the difference between one side and another. Can you relax your glutes each time you come down? Come down this time, release the hands. Turn everything off. Be sure that you've released all the muscles in the back body. And then taking as much time as you need to transition back over onto your back. Making any movements you need to on the way. And settling with the knees bent and the feet flat to the floor. We'll take a nice counter posture to the movements that we've done in the back. So if you like to bring your right hand and place it behind the back of the head, leave your left resting on the floor. On your inhale, you'll take a diagonal arch between your right elbow and your left hip, arching diagonally out. And as you exhale and flatten, turning to look at the opposite hip, you'll draw the elbow towards the knee. And then slowly, slowly lay back out to the floor. Replace the foot down. Take that diagonal arch, elbow to hip. And then as you exhale and flatten, once you've made that flattening, that will be the energy you need to draw into center. You come down this time, releasing the hand from the back of the head, relaxing it by your side. Taking the opposite hand, placing it behind the head again. Finding now in your body that diagonal left elbow, right hip as you arch. And then as you exhale and flatten, draw everything into center. Knee towards elbow, head turns a little towards the opposite hip. And then slowly, slowly down. Inhale, arch, press the elbow and the right hip. Exhale, flatten. Taking one more through. Placing the foot down and releasing the hand from behind your head and softening it by your side. And then beginning to take your pelvis back into that journey of arch and flatten. Rocking gently across the back of the sacrum. And notice any extra ease or fluidity of movement between your 12-6. Have you managed to iron out any juddering or jerking or shaking? What kind of conversation is your lower back having with the floor as you contract and release through your arch and flatten? And then in your own time, sliding the legs along. Turning everything off. Relaxing your weight down deeply into the floor. Take a moment for everything to settle here. Returning to where we started, bring your awareness to how the pelvis interfaces with the floor. How much space does the front body have to allow the weight of the legs to lengthen long? How does the lower back feel when you compare it to where you started? Has there been any change or sense of feeling around the front of the pelvis? Could you relate it to a tone or texture, or just a quality? Before filing all of these thoughts away, turning everything else off. Only when you're ready, deepening a little in the breath, noticing the rise and fall. Before allowing that rise to travel out to the fingers and the toes. Easing through the arms and the legs. Making any movements or full body yawns. That would ready your body for movement.